What is water polo? And how do you become a professional player? What does it take to represent your country at the Olympics? Very few get the opportunity to follow their dreams of professionally playing water polo, a minority sport, and even fewer getting the chance to represent their country at the Olympics, especially if you're in the UK. Today I get the chance to talk to someone who has achieved both of these and is still pushing the boundaries of British water polo. We explore his journey, what it took, and what he would advise others to do, and what's next for British water polo. And amongst all of that, after all this time, I get to learn what's a badger. Welcome to MYSWIM. MYSWIM is every person's personal adventure in the water, whether it's learning to swim, wild swimming, channel swimming, winter swimming, another aquatic sport like water polo, synchronised swimming, triathlon, or something social with friends, the best kind. And everything in between, your happy place, your aquatic adventure, and together we can explore it. First things first, what is water polo? Water polo is a competitive team sport played in the water between two teams. Each team is made up of 6 outfield players and 1 goalkeeper, plus up to 6 substitutes. The game consists of 4 quarters in which the team attempts to score goals by throwing the ball into the opposing team's net. The team with the most goals at the end of the game wins the match. Sounds simple. However, at its highest level, water polo is regularly measured as one of the toughest sports in the world. Water polo was a sport invented in the United Kingdom, with the first international being recorded between Scotland and England on the 28th of July 1890, and spreading around Europe and the world in the late 1800s. The earliest presence of the sport at the Olympics was in 1900 in Paris, played by representative club sides, but it was almost 100 years later that women's water polo became an Olympic sport at the 2000 Olympics at Sydney. The most famous water polo match in history is probably the 1956 Summer Olympic Games semi-final, a match played between Hungary and the then Soviet Union. As the athletes left for the Games, the Hungarian Revolution had begun and the Soviet army crushed the uprising. The Hungarian players felt that their only means of fighting back was by a victory in the pool. The confrontation was bloody and violent, and in which the pool was reputedly turned to red from the blood. The Hungarians defeated the Soviets 4-0 and went on to win the Olympic gold medal by defeating the then Yugoslavians 2-1 in the final. Great Britain was initially the dominant force in water polo at the Olympics, winning the first 4 of the men's gold medals in the 1900, the 1908, the 1912 and the 1920 Olympics. However, a lack of funding and declining access to pool time has seen no GB presence at the Olympics and major tournaments between 1956 and then the London 2012 Olympics. In the London 2012 Olympics, as hosts, the nation's investment was put into a golden era of players to compete in the Olympics. One of those gifted players was our guest today, Olympic goalkeeper Matt Holland, who I met when he was starting out on his water polo career when training one of my former clubs, Sun Cheam, from the UK. We became good friends, and he was also a member of my English Channel 2-way swim in 2016, an experience I still think he's recovering from. He has become a stalwart of the GB setup and is the only player from the 2012 squad still playing as a member of the GB team today. And as they try to rebuild the team for European Championship qualifications, we talked to Matt about his journey, what the Olympics was like, the current challenges, and what the future holds for Matt Holland. It was a pleasure to catch up with Matt. Someone I have take great pride in seeing how his national and international career has progressed over the years, and I hope his story and insight will help you and make you want to explore more into this great, exciting, challenging aquatic sport. As always, there is a unique design that goes with the podcast, and links to which can be found on the website MYSWIM.uk. And every purchase helps us keep these podcasts going and help spread the knowledge and love for the aquatic adventure in their various forms. Thank you. Okay, welcome Matt to MYSWIM. Thank you for coming in and telling us a bit about water polo and
Pleasure.
Particularly your experiences around the 2012 Olympics. Quite a unique experience at one time. I'm looking forward to this bit. Right, first one then, complete left field because it's nothing to do with your history or your background. Water polo originated from rugby in rivers, lakes in England and Scotland in the 1950s.
1850s.
Sorry, 1850s. Right, okay, that wasn't the question. You're one up already then. So this water rugby came to become called water polo. Okay, why polo? And I'll give you a clue. It's nothing to do with horses or those little tiny mints.
I don't know. Maybe polo was a way of describing some sort of activity maybe back in the day with balls. I have no idea.
That's pretty close, but not the real one. But it's got here, it's based on the English pronunciation of the word pulu, which is P-U-L-U, which comes from the Balti word and the Tibetan language, meaning ball.
Okay.
So it comes water pulu. So, you know,
Is that...
That's one for the away trips, okay?
Okay. Is that been verified?
Yeah, it's been verified. Yeah, a number of websites I've seen now. Because I thought originally
Not just some mad
it was like they
person
played it on
Wikipedia.
barrels. They played it on barrels like the polo horses and things like that. But apparently that's not it. Not from the few websites I've seen anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will tell us if that's not true.
Well, it's
So
interesting I don't know how interesting this is, but in other sports that don't use water polo, or other countries that don't use, other languages that don't use water polo, you know, like in Germany they call it Wasserball.
Oh right, okay.
So I don't know why we've used polo.
My naivety of the language. Wasser, does that mean water?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in
it's a straight
Hungarian
pronunciation.
it's another.
Oh,
And
right,
then
okay. Oh, that's good.
and then in Italian it's water ball as well.
Okay.
Pallanuoto. So it would have been a lot easier if it was just called water ball, because the amount of jokes you get from people saying horses in water.
No, the one, as I say, the one that I always got was they said, "How do you find those little mints?" I mean, do they still do polos? You know, the ones with little holes in them. They still get. Yeah. Big in the 70s, you see. That's one.
Summers were hotter as well, weren't they?
Okay, then. Right. So if we can get into this then, Matt, tell people a bit about your beginnings into the sport, I suppose, from learning to swim through to up to the Olympics.
Learning to swim, I remember with my parents always going to the pools when we were younger, and then me and my brother, he's 18 months younger than I, we did formal lessons, I think, when we were 8, 9, where we went to a swimming teacher and they just taught us to swim. And then we joined Sutton and Cheam Swimming Club, which was the club I'm still a member at now, and the club that you were a member at, I think, when we were 9, 10.
Yeah.
And the model there, as it is now, is you swim and then you play water polo as well. So I think at age 10 we were recruited, maybe that's the word, into the water polo team, which was coached by a former coach and player of the first team, and then you get in the water polo that way. It's has been a successful club in the past and has a very successful junior section, and we went from there really. I think we had 1 or 2 sessions a week as a junior, and then you do your swimming as well at the same time. And then we had a good team, we trained hard, and yeah.
Yeah, you had a lot of success with that team. I remember quite a few of you made it into the GB Juniors at the time.
We did, yeah. It was the main thing for that team was Southern Region water polo, had a decent setup, and that once you were 13, you used to go to the regional training on every Friday.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which I don't think every region in the country had that in place, but this was something that the South did. I don't think many other regions did it.
Right.
But it was proved to be quite beneficial and worthwhile for my age group, because we had the best players from the South. We all go to train together, and then it's the same with every sport. If you put the better players together, trying to get them playing and training together more regularly, then they all improve together as a unit. You had a good team. We always won. The competition at the time was inter-counties. You go and play against Scotland, North, West or whatever. And we won that, I think, most years. I think we lost 1 year to Scotland the first year. And the next 2 times we won. And then from that team...
Because that was the inter-regionals, wasn't it? That one, I think. So you would have been combined with Kent as well,
yeah.
So
all the South.
Which had some good players as well coming through at the similar age. So yeah,
exactly.
Quite a strong team.
It was, and the main takeaway what I take away now from that is you have to get the best players in the region training together as much as possible, and it's the same for every sport, I'd say. Water polo is obviously very behind other sports because of the amount of training we do, but I'm sure that all other sports do that. They get the best players in the region together to train, and we did that at that time. And from that team, you had many players who went to play for GB Juniors and for the national team. So it was a productive time for the South.
So you're in the junior ranks now. You've actually you're into water polo. You're still doing swimming at the same time.
Yeah, swimming. The infamous Mickey Halp's Wednesday night sets at Cheam Baths. Yeah. So I think. So training back then was swimming and water polo Monday nights, and Tuesday night swimming, and then water polo with the regional stuff Friday night, and then other sports did in between, which I think is for a 13, 14-year-old is a good amount to do. That's what I'm trying to aim to get for the kids now.
Yeah.
Because it's not a professional sport, so if you get them doing 4 pool sessions a week plus other sports, I think that's the best you can ask for.
Yeah.
And in those sessions you can teach them all the techniques and everything you need to be decent when they hit puberty and grow and all that stuff. But that's what I was doing then. And then you start getting into national academies and the national squads at 14.
Right, okay.
And then because of the Olympics, there was a little bit more money, you would say, funding around. So then our age group, along with the age group above, were earmarked as people that potentially could be in a 2012 squad. So there's a bit more money for us, more than there'd probably ever been.
Yeah, there was a lot of hope around
for any squad.
Well, that was setting was it the pathway as well? They developed as because
because that actually no, that was before. But it's interesting because it's an interesting story. But so that may be before we had a bit of money, but there was still decent pathways in place, and they were trying to build it up. But then on one of our first trips abroad we took was to Malta in 2005. I guess the performance director, a guy called Nick Hume, and we were on this trip when they announced that we'd won the Olympics, and we were having dinner, and then he was just had something on his phone, and then he got up from his chair and just went, yes. And it was like, and we were just like, didn't we understand what was going on? Then he sat us down, he was explaining how big a deal this was for our sport and for us as a group of players, and we didn't really understand what was going on about. But then it was quite...
Must have seemed so far away back at that time, 2012. And
well, yeah, it wasn't something as you were thinking about, or we were thinking about, or anyone was thinking what could it be for us.
Yeah.
What could that mean for us? But it's just an interesting thing to think back on, because how happy Nick was.
Because I remember the whole feeling of that was, this was our opportunity. Transformational, really, from that point of view. We had a good crop of players. You guys all, you could see the talent was there, and there was some money coming in. And that would have been a bit that had been missing. Now, we're not talking vast amounts. We're not talking Premier League and in football, but there was an exciting time. Yeah,
well, so for our junior team, that meant that we were given a bit more money to go on a few more trips and make sure we qualified for European Championships, which is the main event for the junior teams. I think we didn't manage to qualify for first year, which had been in 2005 or 2006, which was shame.
Yeah.
But the 87s did. They had a very good team. And then we did qualify the time afterwards, which was then a good experience for everyone, and start going to major tournaments and getting the experience you need to be a decent player.
That journey then must have suddenly taken on a different focus. At what point did the team feel as if they were now training for the Olympics rather than to just get into the GB squad, which for years and years and years, that was the only pinnacle that a club player, junior, would have aimed for or would have been able to go for, because it was unrealistic that we were going to get through to the Olympics if we were never going to be the host. And the focus, was that any different, or was it still you could be cut at any time, so I'm only looking at the next game or I'm only looking at the next?
No, so what they did was they decided to go down the route of having a national performance centre in Manchester, with the idea being that everyone went to Manchester to train. We were still at school, but the people that could go to university, so people, 87, 85 people, they went to Manchester. And then any of the older guys who were working, who wanted to be part of it, had to go and move to Manchester, basically.
That's quite a commitment, isn't it?
Some people did it, but in the end, the older chaps that started off there, most of them didn't last the course, if you know what I mean, because there wasn't enough money, and life got, they were getting to 27, 28 by 2010, and then it just there wasn't enough in it for them. You had to make life decisions, so they couldn't do it. But then the younger ones who were going to university, most of us went to Manchester to study, and then you basically become a full-time athlete, get a little bit of money to support that, not a lot, but enough to pay for your food or whatever, and then you become an athlete, basically training full-time. That's what most people did, apart from me and Ed, who were the goalkeepers, who both went to Leeds.
That's right. Yeah.
Which was that was an interesting decision, but it worked out well.
Yeah, I remember at the time it was Leeds University had two of the best goalkeepers in the country. Well, say the two best in the country. Yet neither of you played in goal down there.
For the uni?
For the uni team, yeah.
First year we didn't, because there was an established guy there already who was the goalkeeper, so we can't take his place.
No, that's good. Good respect.
Play outfield and use it as fitness, and we couldn't play too many of the games because we had to go at night to travel to Manchester to train quite a bit.
Right.
And at that point you become they're trying to make you train as much as a professional as you could do, so training 2-3 times a day. And then
was that just in the pool, or did you get training? So
we had a strength. So we became part of EIS, the English Institute of Sport,
right? And
then with all that, you get the support of S&C and things like that. So we had Ed and I were obviously in Leeds, so we didn't do our S&C with the other guys at Manchester. We had some old boy hammer throw coach who was he's just like an old boy. Character who did the gym with us. It was brilliant. Yeah. He just
had he heard of Waterpolo? Did he know the needs?
He didn't really care. He just saw us, and he was just sort of the old school guy. He would, when you first arrived, he'd go right, walk over there, and then he'd make you walk and skip and run, and he'd go right. These are the problems we're going to do. Strengthen these.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
proper old school. That's really
proper old school. We used to have a big thing about your hip position, hip thrusting, and using lots of metaphors.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was quite funny. So we did our gym there, and then training in Manchester, and it's the start of starting to think like a athlete. And
did that include nutrition, or did
I think so, but not so much.
Yeah.
We didn't really take too much notice. The best nutrition advice I got was, if you're going to have, just eat sensibly, obviously, make sure you eat enough. But if you're going to have a cheat day, make sure you train hard on that day. So if you're going to have
make it
some beer, pizza and whatever, at least do a hard session in the morning, or that's what's quite good advice. It's quite hard to use that now.
Yeah.
If I'm going for a big lunch or dinner or something, then make sure you do a training session in the morning.
Yeah.
I think but all the other advice about what to eat and everything is just, doesn't really, I don't think it matters too much.
It gets very, very complex.
As long as you eat enough and you're not eating rubbish, then it's fine. You're starting to feel like you're an athlete and learning how to be an athlete, which none of us had any experience of that, or anyone in the UK water polo had ever done that before, really.
No. So you've now made the deal that, okay, I've got to go the full hop, I'm going to be a professional athlete. That must have been the big decision to have made for a lot of those players.
For the older ones, yeah. For the younger ones, it wasn't really that much of a big decision. It was the only decision to make if you wanted to try and potentially go and play Olympics, and it's a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah.
If you're going to university anyway, or some of the lads who didn't go to uni went up there and got jobs and things like that. And when you're 21 or 18, it's not that big a decision.
Yeah. To
go and move somewhere to play sport you like, really.
Yeah.
I didn't, but for the older ones, obviously it was, and they dropped out.
Roughly how many in the squad at that time? Picking, because obviously they wouldn't have taken. I assume they didn't take it down to the 13 that were in it in the final one.
At the beginning, they split the junior squads and the senior squad. So maybe there was, from my age group, there was maybe 12 of us, and then the older age group, maybe 10, 15.
So roughly 25 to 30, and
I guess so.
All assessing the chances of getting on that dream of an Olympic place.
Yeah, trying to be an athlete, basically.
So when do they start whittling that down, and how did that process go? Is it
a new coach came in at a certain point, and then he cut a load of the older guys because he didn't think they were going to make it, so he just concentrated on, I guess, the better older chaps, and then the younger ones, I can't remember when that was, all a bit of a blur, but the coach came in and cut everyone, all the older guys, and then got a squad, and then that was it. And then about 2010, maybe 2009.
Okay, a couple of years out. Yeah.
Ran out of money, basically. So they said the current model that we both, us, I think, I'm not sure if this applied to the women as well, but the model of paying people, we were getting £500 a month or whatever to live in Manchester and train as a squad. Wasn't going to work anymore because we didn't have any money left. So then they told us we all had to go and play abroad. That was the only way we were going to be able to do enough training to potentially be competitive. So then it was in the balance whether we would actually send the team at that point.
2008 was the financial crash.
Financial crash,
financial crash. In that austerity was then brought in from that period. Sport is not immune to that, but even if you're aiming for the Olympics, so I'm assuming that everyone was tightening their belt from that side. So I suppose that would have been it. But we were committed to the Olympics, so I think you're right. The whole thought process must have been, well, can we rack back on some of those sports that might not win us a medal? And that was the frustration at the time.
I guess so. I don't know what. Obviously not part of the meetings, but UK sport had then and still do now very tough criteria about how they fund people. It's all about winning medals, which is fair enough. I guess for the home Olympics, they wanted a different. They wanted to try and get a team in every sport, which is obviously what you want to do.
Great, yeah.
But then you had to be competitive. They said you had to be. So I don't know. Maybe they thought that if just cutting the money, then we wouldn't go and do the training necessary or keep the team together, and maybe they wouldn't be competitive, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it. But in the end, it was probably the best thing that could happen for individual players to get better, because training together in Manchester, it was okay, but...
So that was an actual change in strategy at the time then, because of those circumstances. So do you think, had it continued on, you would have all stayed?
Yeah, I think if there was enough money...
I didn't realise that. I thought it was all part of it. Oh, that's
no,
good. No, you're right. It is a good
if they had carried on the money, then they would have kept the same structure. The idea being that you're in effect a team training together like a club team would every day, and going to tournaments and things like that, which is one way of doing it.
So you've gone abroad.
So then parents and the wider water polo community set up a fund called Friends of Water Polo or something, and people donated some money. The idea being that we could try and help support some of the players that helped you either to go and play somewhere, because I'm not going to talk for other people, but for me, trying to find a club is pretty difficult because, we
haven't got the contacts, have we?
Things like that. And there's a lot of other people who are trying to do the same thing. So I went to Holland.
Oh, yeah.
If you're interested, in 2010.
Holland in Holland.
Yeah, on the border, everyone says, hey, you know your name, as you go in, which is good. In terms of talking about training and stuff, this is the time it starts for me in terms of actually learning how to be a proper athlete and getting a real interest in improving as a water polo player, as a goalkeeper. For me personally, it's a lot better taking me out of the environment where everyone was together, just going to another place, learning new things and learning a different way and getting proper training on technique and things like that was revolutionary for me. That's a bit of a big word, but
Yeah.
it actually made me a decent goalkeeper, whereas before I was just doing the stuff that we do in the UK. There's no real goalkeeper coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me and Ed training together with the odd sets that were given to us, but not great. Not really learning how to be the art of goalkeeping, I guess, and the techniques you need to do.
So you enjoyed it in Holland then?
Well, the Holland, what we did was we went on a training camp to Croatia with a club in Šibenik, and we went for a week or so, and I was training with the goalkeepers there, who were all younger than me. They're like 16, but they're really good. And then some old boy who was there, and then the goalkeeper coach, who I don't know who he is, don't know his name, but he was just beasting us for a week and learnt loads of new drills and fitness things, and just basically learnt one way of training to be a goalkeeper in a week with this guy. And then I hadn't done any of that stuff ever before. And then I just took that back to Holland and just practiced all the stuff we did for quite a long time. And then that allowed me, I got quite quickly improved, and then that meant that I played quite well in the Dutch league. And then I started playing a bit more for the national team, because I was always absolutely second fiddle to Ed. And then I started playing a bit more because I was getting better. And
on that train, just picking up on that part then, did they have a bit that they focused on, or was it a range? I mean, was it positioning, your leg work, your all-round fitness, or
everything? Everything.
It was each one of those had a structured part to it.
But the main thing's about technique for sliding.
Yeah,
it's the main thing that you need to learn as a goalkeeper. I guess that was actually less so in Holland. We didn't in Croatia there. We did a lot of positional stuff, but mainly fitness, a lot of fitness stuff and explosive jumping, which I wasn't as good at.
Yeah.
And I guess in Holland I got a lot more explosive because I just worked on that stuff and just stronger. Lost a lot of weight. I was quite heavy when I was at uni because I was, doing a lot of gym.
You just told us pizzas and beer.
All that stuff. And maybe I was 105 kilograms. Right. And then in Holland I started training a lot smarter and better and doing more stuff in the water that was really useful.
Could you actually feel that, getting lighter and being able to get up and get out? Or?
It's definitely, you can't be heavy as a goalie, really.
No.
So I probably got down to under 100, and say my Olympic weight was like 97.
Right.
And I was 105 when I was training in Manchester. So let's say I was probably 99. So it's quite a lot difference. Yeah, I worked on that for a year in Holland, and then played. I mean, we weren't getting paid any money. They gave us a flat. We worked in the Dutch supermarket, stacking shelves.
Right.
And got your money from friends of Waterpolo. One of the guys in the fifth team owned a bar.
Right.
So he gave us pints for €1, so it's cheap to go and socialise and things.
Did you just say the 15?
Yeah, the way I played in PSV at Eindhoven, they had like 7 men's teams, 3 women's teams. It's fantastic setup they have there.
It's a fantastic.
They've got a massive swimming pool, Peter van der Hoogenbaan swim stadium, like an old swimmer. Massive 50-metre diving board.
Pool time.
They have the pool on Saturdays. They have the big pool 10 till 10 probably, and they just play games after games after games.
I hadn't realised that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good setup at Eindhoven. But then playing at that level, still asking around people, where can I go and play? Sending CV off to clubs and things. Mm-hmm. And I went to do a trial down at a club in France, in Aix-en-Provence. And then they offered me a place, right. And then I started getting paid. And then you probably a professional player then.
Yeah, I remember you going there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. And then that coach there was all about technique. So then I started learning how to do technique for sliding and things like that, which was then the next step. I got fit enough and in my body in a decent place to be an athlete. Then went to France and then learnt all the sliding technique stuff which you need, which I wasn't particularly good at before, and then just worked on that. Bloody boring. And just a lot of time just sliding in the water and doing.
Must be able to get your positioning set for the next shot.
Yeah, how I try and describe it to goalkeepers now is you're in a game or a battle with the attack to be in a good position for every shot. So it's like a battle or game for them to take you out of position so that then they can get an easy shot. So you're goal is to always be in the right position when someone's about to shoot. Opposition's goal is to put you off position so that when they shoot, they have a higher chance of scoring. So, and then sliding, obviously if you're trying to get from one bit of the goal to the other, you have to move and then get set, which takes time.
Yeah.
So you have to have good technique to do that. So learnt that there, and then that was the year before the Olympics. That then added another part to my game.
Yeah.
And then started playing more and more for the national team. Then it got to the point where Ed and I were sharing games. I was a different style of goalkeeper, so it was useful to have me in certain games and Ed in others, and then it came a bit of a partnership as two goalkeepers, whereas I was a bit more aggressive. I could jump out and steal the ball and save shots behind blocks, be a bit more random, whereas Ed was a bit more stable and just very solid. So it's able to be a partnership. But I would hiked by going to Holland and going to France, I was able to get my level up to be able to do that and to be performing at the same level. So that's why when I say that it was worthwhile going abroad, that's for me.
Sounds very progressive. I mean, as you say, you picked up a different part within each bit.
Yeah, and then you have to it was also learning how to be like a water polo badger. It was one of the people who love cricket, they call them a cricket badger.
Right.
And they're just like love it and love the stats and love learning about it. And then I think you need to learn how to be a decent trainer. Some people do. And you need to learn how to be a water polo badger and want to watch clips and watch games and watch goalkeepers, and that's the best way to learn.
My naivety, I hadn't heard that term before.
No.
As it was, he eats, sleeps and polo.
Yeah. So it's then you start start wanting to watch games and watch videos and things like that.
Did they do a lot of that sort of analysis within the GB setup when you
They
moved
did,
up?
but that was useful. But I mean, you don't really need you do need a video analysis, but all you need is a camera.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
And you just stop it. You don't need someone to break it up for our level. You just need someone to press pause and be like, that was rubbish.
Yeah, I suppose it's the analysis bit is the important of the film. It's the the team acknowledging and recognising the improvement required. You used to have a person who used to draw it, just wasn't quick enough.
But that's the best way to learn and improve and get better, is just watch back what you've done or watch other people do stuff and try and copy them.
Yeah. No,
and
that's good.
But I think you need to learn to be that interested in things and learn what to look at, and it takes time.
So you're playing in France. The Olympics is coming up rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
When was the selection made?
Selection was made sometime in June, maybe. We were sat in Wetherspoons in Fallowfield in Manchester, having a beer or something, maybe having lunch, and then they just messaged people. And there weren't too many selection dilemmas, really. There's only maybe two spaces that were first 10 were solid. Yeah. And then it was just like the last 3 places. So it was just disappointing for some of the lads who weren't in, and then elation for some of the ones who were. So
that path from there on in went up. Did you stay out in France, or did they pull everyone back in? And
we didn't have much money left in the pot, so our preparation wasn't particularly great. I think we went to Montpellier in France, which was quite nice because it was near where I lived. So we went down to there. But then we did have a training camp, holding camp they call it, and tournament in Dublin.
I went along to that. I remember seeing it. You had a great game. You played the Hungarians, didn't you? Yeah. That was a great game.
Yeah, I can't remember whether that was when that was. I can't remember.
That was just before. It was the last one before you went off.
Yeah, so I think we did that tournament, played against some of the top teams, and then we had a week's training camp in Dublin, stayed in the same place. There is a funny story from that training camp, just because it shows you how amateur it all really was. We're going to Olympics, but it was all quite still amateur level. I got food poisoning or something, or I felt sick, and I told the medic, and then she said, "Oh, you can't train with the squad." I was like, right, okay, not ideal. I need to self-isolate. But then I was rooming with Ed, the other goalkeeper, but then we didn't have enough money to get another room for me. Right. So I still had to stay in the same room with Ed, who's the only other goalkeeper.
Yes, strange.
So, luckily it wasn't really food poisoning. It was just I think she was just being overly cautious or following the protocols.
I've got a story from that trip as well. We had to get the bus we were staying in Dublin and it was just a bit further out, so we had to get the bus on the way out there. And so everyone's heading out to the pool, and everyone on the bus pretty much was in the pool. And so there were some locals there, and there's this young lad. I don't know, for some reason he got talking to us. Turns out he played for Ireland youth. So you get generally said, which players do you know? Oh, Matt Holland's my favourite player, he said.
Oh, God.
He was a goalkeeper. Matt Holland, yeah, it's all right. I don't think he was. By the time I finished on the bus, I put him right. So that's right. So I thought it was quite good that you guys had become a generation of players that were already inspiring the next ones on. They had a fan base there that turned up for the tournament just to watch you guys.
They're great to go and play in Dublin. We're going back actually in May. We got the Home Nation tournament in May. It's really good to go to Dublin.
Let's get up to the Olympics then. We're now at the Olympics. What was the lead up when you got onto the camp? I mean, how soon before the opening ceremony had you guys got together?
We came back from Dublin, but then we had a few days off, so went home and then all got a coach up to the village. And then we had 3 or 4 days just chilling out there before we started playing. So I had a few training sessions. The weather was great, if you remember, right at the beginning.
Do you actually get to train in the actual pool?
Yeah,
because it was like a temporary facility.
Yeah, we'd done that already at some point. They had a load of big tents with a load of pools somewhere.
Oh, did they?
So, yeah, it's maybe 3 Olympic pools just under a big tent. I don't know where it was. It wasn't a far drive away.
Oh, right, okay.
That's where everyone did their training. And then you have everyone, you see all the other teams, everyone puffs their chests out and prances around and does the whole iron people up. And then, you walk around the village and the weather was great and it's just talking to people. And
how did the groups work? Did they multinational or did GB tend to stay with the GB? And
Everyone stays in their own block, I guess, every team. And the GB team had a block. It was the best block positioned for going to the stadium.
Brilliant.
I think, so that when they did the opening ceremony, all the GB athletes didn't have to walk that far. They had a really good gym there, so we'd just hang out in the gym and go to the sauna.
You must have been worried about picking up injuries at that time, though, wouldn't you?
I guess people were. I think there was a reasonable amount of hope and expectation from us. We were a pretty tough group, but we had first game was against a team that we thought we could beat, or we thought we had a chance against.
Who was that?
Romania.
Okay, yeah.
To be fair, we'd never beaten them in all the years leading up to it, but you never know in the day.
The fact that psychologically you guys have been built strong enough to be able to believe it.
Yeah,
to do it, you've got to first believe it, haven't you? So,
I guess so. So it's, just trying to prepare for that. And it's very weird because for the goalkeepers for us, because we were playing half and half everything, and it was working quite well. But then before the game, literally an hour before the game, the coach was like, I don't really know who we're going to pick to go in goals. He just who feels good, who wants to go in.
Really?
We're like, and it was very odd. But then Ed's a natural guy to go. He was always the first. We were like, right, Ed was playing. But Ed didn't have a particularly good first quarter, really. So one thing in my head is I was like, what would have happened if I had got in there and played the best game of my life ever? Because he didn't do badly, but he didn't have the best game of his life for the first half. So it was one thing you think of, but that was weird how that worked.
You could take it all in because knowing that you weren't going to be playing that first game.
Yeah, I was loving it.
Quite relaxed. I was at that first game.
Oh yeah, after that I was very relaxed. I was just I wasn't playing, so I was just like loving it. I was at the back, just cheering everyone. And it was pretty cool, really. Because you sit in a tunnel before.
Right.
Well, not a tunnel, but there's a walkway here with double doors, and then both teams wait there, and then you go out and do your lineup.
Oh, okay.
In Waterpolo, all teams line up on the side, and everyone gets announced, and you do the anthems. I don't know if you did anthems, can't remember. Probably not, actually, in the early stages.
Yeah. So just one prior to that, then. Do you have a team talk?
With polo, you tend to have a team talk back at the hotel or someplace beforehand, go for the tactics. Then you go and get changed, and then you have the main pool, and then you have a training pool out the back where everyone warms up.
Are the other team in the same pool at the other end? Right, okay.
Yeah, split that pool, and they're the other team at the other end. We're at the other half of the pool, and you do your warm-up. I remember it being a bloody long warm-up, actually. And then you have a little bit of a chat just to go through it's the classic, never say more than 3 things. So you just, coach maybe says a couple of points. And then we had the chat with the coach who said how he's going to play in goal. We did that, which is very odd.
Literally as late as that?
Yeah. Ed and I it's just weird. And then, then you line up and go in. Yeah. Take the caffeine pill.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, I used to like taking the caffeine pill. It was quite good.
Okay, so let's take you to the potentially more tense one then, the next game.
Yeah, then I knew I was going to play against Serbia, I think it was. didn't remember feeling too much pressure because we were pretty fit. I was pretty fit. Everyone's pretty fit. So
I remember the
it's just about
Serbians
trying
being
not
so tall. I
Yeah,
mean, I
big
used to think
boys.
you guys were all tall, but the Serbians were over 2 metres, some of these
the
guys.
Serbians weren't as big as the Croatians. The Croatians are the biggest.
Yeah.
When we were doing training with them, we did a few scrimmages with them before in the training pools beforehand. And we played. They played at like a different level to us when we're doing man up, man down.
Yeah.
We're playing here, or we're defending and blocking here. But then they were just playing above our hands because we couldn't get up high enough because they're so tall, and they just like this and just play above us.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. When you're playing the best types of pools for polo, all the lighting's on there really well set up, and when you can see everything, and the ball's really bright. It's just really easy to play in those pools as a goalkeeper. Everything's
Okay, it's interesting.
all the lighting's good.
Yeah.
Feels like a proper water polo arena. Your focus is a lot better in those sort of environments.
Right.
I find as a goalkeeper. I haven't actually watched those games back. I should do that.
Have you not?
No,
What is that?
they're on DVD somewhere. I don't know where.
Oh,
I've
right,
never done
okay.
it.
They're not on YouTube or something? Oh, right. I remember watching them on telly because it's still difficult to get any polo on the telly to watch it all. But they
It's
were
not now.
starting. Yeah, I know, but they were starting
Oh, yeah.
at that time to spread it out on the sub channels, as it were, that you could go around and see it. So
Yeah.
rather than just last minute highlights on some indie show.
But it was, I think, it was all on
Yeah.
recorded. I remember for a year after, probably with my parents.
Yeah.
But I never watched it. I don't know why.
That must have been a massive proud moment for both of them and your brother Ollie. So
Yeah, because they came down to all the games, so
because
we
they've
had to get them
invested in it
tickets.
as well, haven't they? Got big
Well,
investment.
yeah, it's the same with everything. Without your
Yeah.
parents ferrying you around, it's not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
and paying.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, all right, let's talk about life after the Olympics then. Many of people in that squad went
Well,
into...
A lot of people played for another year in their clubs.
Did they?
Some stopped.
Right.
But a lot of lads carried on for a year or so. I went back to...
These are in their international clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Just, relive the dream. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know how many we did, but I think maybe half of them did. Carried on for a year or so.
And that would have been without any funding. It would have been
No, but they're
on
getting
their
paid
own.
by their clubs,
Yeah, literally as a professional. There's
Yeah.
nothing else from no subsidy. It's just
Yeah.
as a professional what you would earn as a player.
And so I did that. I went back to my club in France. Played 2 more years there. Really good. Just life was great down there, and the national team stuff was still carrying on. We got a coach who came in who played for Romania, and then he retired, and he came and coached us. He was able to put together a team and get tactics together, and a few players who weren't in the Olympic team came back. So arguably we had a better team a couple of years after when everyone was semi-professional.
It's interesting. Yeah.
The Olympics, probably maybe not, but we had a good team and really good coach, and we played a certain way, and it was really good. We learnt a lot as players from him, and I was still playing abroad, and a few of us were still playing abroad, and that was a really, really fun, enjoyable time.
That was about the time the Commonwealths came out, was it 2014?
Yeah, and then the aim was to try and qualify for the Europeans, but then it was still a 12-team tournament, bloody difficult to qualify for. We had to beat Romania to qualify, home and away, which we didn't do, obviously. And then the tournament we were aiming for was the Commonwealth Games in Scotland in 2014, and the aim was to try and win the Commonwealth tournament. We had a really good team, and we smashed it in the end.
Gold for the first time, was it? First time?
I think so.
In
Many years.
Sort of
So yeah, it was just like a perfect tournament for us.
Yeah. So you moved on to Spain soon after that one, didn't you?
Yeah, so then I finished 2014 my club in France and went and played for a club in Spain, and that was a pretty good year to go and play different league, and the coach there was an old Spanish goalkeeper. Yeah, it was good. Learnt a lot.
Yeah.
And a really fun year, but it wasn't really wasn't able to go for another year there, and there was no national team stuff. So
Again, from the outside, was that the dynamo of the GB team was starting to slow at that time. Some of the players who had been that core were now thinking, do you know what, there's no funding now, it's getting harder and harder. They're starting to have their focus elsewhere.
Yeah, it's a real shame. If you talk about legacy and all this stuff, there's many points along the last 10 years where it all went, where there were big decisions made. One of the big ones was 2014. It was announced that the Europeans was coming to 16-team tournament. So we were probably 13th team in Europe, probably, at that time, based on the results we'd had in that year, who we'd beaten and played against. And then, so no money. At that point, you're just cutting everything off, because there would be a whole generation of lads now who would have played the Europeans.
Yeah.
Because we'd take maybe 8 of the established lads, and then there'd be 5 juniors probably, and then they're the ones now who would be making, maybe not 2016, maybe 2018, but if you're in once, you're going to get in the next time, and then you build a squad of junior lads coming through by having that Olympic legacy team making the Europeans. Once you're in it, it's a lot easier to re-qualify every year with 16 teams. And then you can start building a programme around travelling to this competition every 2 years or having to qualify for it. And then there's something really to train for. Whereas
it's a frustration, but it's reality. That's how it all, at the moment, foreseeable, that's how it will always be. Okay then, so you come back and you're a mere mortal, you're having to come back and do, like the rest of us, full-time work. How's your training and approach to playing changed during that time? You're the only playing member from that 2012 who's still in the GB setup, which for longevity, that's full credit, not just from keeping yourself fit, that's one, but being able to be motivated enough to carry on do that, as well as now having to do a full-time role. How are you finding your training's different, and what tips would you give to any student or worker who's looking to do a similar thing?
You just have to train in the mornings, really. I think work from home has helped. You're able to train at lunchtimes. If you work from home, that helps. But the main thing is, for polo players...
What sort of training?
My always advice is just get up and swim in the mornings. It's difficult, but it's the only way to get it in.
Distance stuff or shorts?
Well, it's not different for me.
You do a lot of leg work?
I just do, leg works. Try and do that Monday and Friday mornings, a bit of gym, and then legs, short, sharp stuff, half an hour just to get you around. Then whatever polo and swimming you do in the evenings, it's just extra. Well, it's the standard stuff, and then it's the little extra things you do at the weekends and in the mornings that can then elevate you and make you a better player or fitter or able to play national team. Because you can't train every night. Everyone's got lives as well.
Top of that, you're also coaching others now.
Probably have to stop playing if I want to do the coaching a bit more soon, because then I can't really do more than 2-3 nights a week polo. There's some good goalies coming through, so it's probably less needed. And I quite like doing the coaching. I mean, my role at the national team is half coach, half player type thing, so it makes sense just to step back and help out with the coaching.
So where do you see the future for the GB?
The whole idea, and have a good group of lads, we've got a coach now, and make it something that people want to do. Because if you know it's going to cost you 1,500 quid to play for the national team, you get to go on these trips, you get the stash, the kit, you get to say I'm playing for the national team. My spiel to people is, why wouldn't you do it? It's better than being a normal life civvy. You can play for the national team, it's great.
Great point to finish on, Matt.
Well, we have been nattering for a while. Who knows if it's useful.
I'll probably get about 5 minutes out of this. If people need to know more, where they can find more information, if they want to get into polo, even if they just want to try it out, there's various levels. Obviously, we understand a bit more perhaps around the British side of it, but it's a worldwide sport. Where can they find more information, Matt?
It's on various websites, FINA or the World Aquatics websites, and British Waterpolo League websites. And the best thing about Waterpolo now is that we didn't have as much didn't have in your day, had less in my day, is that you can go on Instagram or Facebook and there's a load of videos and there's people making content and you can watch interesting things and learn techniques and things like that. So if you're a 15-year-old, 16-year-old or even younger, you just have to become a badger and watch it all online. That's the way to do it. Go on Instagram.
Okay, I'll put the links to those websites in the show notes.
#WaterpoloLife. Follow that Instagram and then you just watch a load of clips and that's the way to get interested in it.
It sounds like you've still got the badger passion for it as well.
Now it's more about coaching. So trying to develop as a coach and learn techniques, and been doing it a couple of years with the juniors, and you find out what works, what doesn't, look online, what's useful, and then adapt it to what you need. So I'll be trying to make decent players on an hour a week training. I reckon in 5 years I can do it.
That's good. And you know what? Thanks, Matt, and really appreciate you coming in and giving us that insight into both the Olympics and life as a professional. I mean, there's a lot in there that I hadn't realised, particularly the bits behind the scenes and the leading up to it. The chat went on to some interesting areas, so I'll thank you for that. And hopefully you've enjoyed your experience on the MYSWIM podcast.
I have indeed.
Thank you.
To capture the joy of each individual MYSWIM, we have an exclusive, bright, fun MYSWIM podcast themed artwork design. If you enjoy the podcast and the guests, we'd appreciate your support to keep these podcasts going, to help spread the knowledge to a wider community. And please check out the designs on www.myswim.uk. Let us know what you want to hear about, and together let's build the community. We really want to positively celebrate and promote all aspects of aquatics, and particularly the mental health benefits that swimming can bring, and would love you to be a part of it. Join the community, give us your feedback, follow, and tell us all about your individual MySwim.